Hello and welcome to another installment of Fedora Fiction Podcast's YouTube edition. If you've been following along, you know we've been reading from my novel Throwback, Book 1, Ares Triumphant. We are up to Chapter 9, and Chapter 9 is called Reality and Realism. What's that about static? O'Shea opened his eyes to find himself in bed. He stretched under the blankets and sat up. Nothing, he said before getting out of bed to dress. Say, is the solar array working? What? Yes, Lima's voice assumed a businesslike tone. Batteries are 25.7% full, and the electrolysis unit has 23.6% of the hydrogen fuel replaced. O'Shea grunted in disappointment, dressed, and walked to the kitchen area to rehydrate a breakfast. How soon before the batteries are fully charged? He asked before sipping gratefully from a hot cup of coffee. Backup batteries will be fully charged in 40 hours, 47 minutes, and 12 seconds, Lima reported. And the batteries for the EVA suits? Those are fully charged. Good, O'Shea said as he sat down with his breakfast. I want to go out and explore those ruins. I'll see that the oxygen bottles are also refilled. Good, thank you. O'Shea chewed his breakfast thoughtfully. How far away do you think those ruins are? Records indicate a major installation 33.4 kilometers to the east. Could you divert all power flow to recharge the backup batteries faster? The one on the AT is exhausted. I can't divert all power, Lima replied petulantly. I can divert 70% to recharging batteries. And if you did, how long before they are fully charged? Approximately 11 hours, 43 minutes, and 12 seconds. Approximately. You're getting sloppy, Lima. There are some variables that are difficult to account for. You doll, you. It will still be a day before I can go out to the ruins then, O'Shea sighed, ignoring the compliment. Yes, perhaps you should take the opportunity to rest. You are quite exhausted from laying that cable. Resting in this refrigerator is a challenge in itself, O'Shea replied dryly, and raising the temperature will only delay the battery recharge. Didn't you say that AT was a hybrid? Lima asked. Yes, but the fuel bottles were missing, and I'm not sure the fuel cell generator works. It just looks like it does. O'Shea rose to make himself another cup of coffee. I suppose, he mused, you could print me those bottles and fittings. And you could use the fuel already generated to go out to the ruins, Lima agreed. If the generator works, and it would still be a day before I could go, O'Shea observed despondently. Yes, Lima agreed, but we could prolong the battery recharge and raise the temperature to permit you to rest. Just in the habitat, O'Shea nodded, holding the fresh, hot cup of coffee in both hands while sipping. Okay, he continued, let's do it. I'm pretty sure I need to load more raw materials into the printer. Do you have the specs? Yes. You had me pull them up when you repaired the transmission, remember? Of course. Sorry. O'Shea resumed his seat. I guess you're right. I do need the rest. Well, finish your coffee and reload the printer, Lima instructed soothingly. Then take the rest of the day off. Thanks, boss, O'Shea responded wryly. O'Shea loaded the 3D printer and double-checked that Lima had the right specifications to print from. He returned to the habitat and noticed a significant difference when he did. It feels warmer in here already, he remarked as he fed the neutral rumen. Yes, Lima replied. The temperature is 2 degrees higher than when you left. What a difference 2 degrees makes. He finished his business and was temporarily at a loss as what to do next. Lima, he asked finally, could you put the files on that installation up on my tablet, please? I want to see what that place used to be. He sat down at the table and opened the tablet. According to the archives, Lima noted, it was an electrolysis and refining station for purifying heavy hydrogen. Yeah, O'Shea mused. It was to have a staff of 50 people who were to be there only to maintain the automated equipment. He scrolled through the files. These are our only planning files, he remarked ruefully. The facility was scheduled to be built after we launched. He scrolled through some more. Lima, do we have any information on the facility's operation? Those were the files included in the database when we launched. They have not been updated. What about the cargo stations? Do they have any logs? As I told you, the code was badly corrupted. I had to reload operating software. O'Shea scowled in frustration. I guess we'll just have to see what's left, he sighed. He closed the tablet and looked around. Lima, he said finally, I'm going to exercise some and then lie down for a while. I didn't sleep last night. You did seem restless, the voice acknowledged. Would you like some music? Yes, O'Shea said, walking to the exercise area. Rock and roll from the late 20th century, and then when again into bed, anything by Claude Debussy. As you wish. O'Shea's eyes flew open, and he sat up abruptly. Lima? He asked, getting out of bed. What time is it? It is 18:07 local time, the voice responded. Why didn't you wake me? O'Shea asked as he walked back to the kitchen. Why would I do that? You wanted to rest, and you were doing it quite well. O'Shea grunted a wry assent. Too well, he observed. Have the fuel tanks finished printing? He asked as he rehydrated an evening meal. The tanks are finished. The fittings are being printed now. How soon will they be done? Approximately 3 hours, 22 minutes, and 33 seconds. Approximately. Yes. How's the electrolysis coming? We are at 49.8% of capacity, Lima replied, but operations have ceased as the sun has set. How much will filling both of those tanks set us back? Filling the tanks will reduce the supply to 27.8% of capacity. That should be enough to get us through the night, right? At the current rate of use, we will be at 9.6% of capacity by the time the sun rises. That is cutting it close, O'Shea admitted, but I can't just sit here and stare at these walls. What he didn't tell Lima was that last night's dream, as vivid as it was, forced him to confront the reality of his situation. That visiting the ruins wasn't just to satisfy his curiosity, it was to confirm that reality. He was up before dawn, filling the new fuel tanks from the habitat supply and downing a quick breakfast. He got into his EVA suit, slung his toolkit, which was also loaded with an extra oxygen bottle and EVA battery, over his shoulder and grabbed the 2 full fuel tanks. Open the airlock, please, Lima, as you wish. He entered and waited patiently for the room to decompress and for Lima to open the exterior doors. The tunnel was dark, and the lights from his helmet illuminated only a small area in front of him. He walked down the tunnel, following the tracks left by the AT unit until he found the unit itself. He opened the cowling and was relieved to find the newly printed fittings were compatible. He stowed the extra tank in his toolkit in the cargo bed of the unit and tried to turn it on. No response. He got off and went to check to see that the tank was open. It was, but the fuel gauges were not registering. He returned to the driver's seat to see if there was anything on the dashboard, a switch or relay that needed activating, that he had missed. Nothing. How far is it to the ruins? He asked Lima. 33.4 kilometers, Lima replied. Too far to walk, O'Shea sighed. He sat on the AT another moment, then got off. I guess we'll have to wait for the batteries to charge after all, he told Lima as he gathered his toolkit from the cargo bed. As he did so, he noted the extra weight. I wonder, he mused suddenly. You're muttering again, Lima told him peevishly. Never mind, I'm going to try something. He removed the EVA suit battery from the tool bag and examined the terminals. This might work. He took the battery to the side of the unit where the connections were and was able to connect it. Lights on the dashboard came up and the gauges indicated fuel flow. That doesn't have the capacity to get you to the ruins, let alone back again, Lima observed patiently. No, O'Shea agreed, but it does have the capacity to start up the generator. This is a hybrid unit. It must draw from a battery and use the generator to constantly recharge it. He engaged the motor and executed the 180 turn to point the unit back down the tunnel toward the surface. Woohoo, he sang happily. Now we're cooking with hydrogen. The AT had one working headlight, but it was enough to get O'Shea down the tunnel and to the surface where the eastern sky was just growing light. He drove the unit past the solar array whose panels were facing east, patiently awaiting the sunlight. The ruins were not yet visible, but O'Shea pointed the unit east and dead reckoned across the cold Martian landscape. The sun peaked above the horizon, making the distant ruins visible. O'Shea noticed he was aiming too far south and steered the AT accordingly. The low sun cast deep shadows in the rolling, dusty plain he traversed, and on more than one occasion he was forced to take a wide detour around large rocky outcroppings. He corrected his path at the top of every rise, redirecting the AT toward the jagged spires of the ruined dome. The AT was built for cargo, not speed, and the sun was well off the horizon before O'Shea had any sense of getting closer to his destination. When he did, he saw what time, dust storms, and cosmic radiation had wrought on his design, still recognizable despite the devastation. Much of the skeletal frame, about 2/3, still stood, but the vast majority of the panels, originally transparent to allow in the wan sunlight, were gone. As he approached, he saw that those remaining had become murky, opaque, and gray. He circled the perimeter of the dome, looking for a safe way in. Structural debris was almost unrecognizable, and its decay littered the area and was piled in a hazardous-looking jumble inside the naked spires. He continued circling and found that the dome had been erected abutting the icy wall of the polar ice cap. Set in the wall was a door, like those of his airlocks. He dismounted and approached it. You can't stay long, Lima warned him as he picked his way carefully through the debris. There's only 5 hours, 20 minutes left of the day's in your oxygen supply. Well, only last 6 hours minutes based on your stage use. What? No time for a picnic lunch? O'Shea quipped as he approached and examined the door. You're breaking up quite a bit, Lima, he added in a more serious tone. He found the panel he was looking for and opened it, only to have it detached from its hinges. He tossed it away and carefully moved the manual lever it revealed. It took 2 hands, but he was able to move it to unlock the door. He moved to face the door itself and placed both his gloved hands in a recess in preparation to slide the door open. Are you recording this, Lima? Am I... What? You're shacking up. Recording this. It just occurred to me that this is an archaeological site we're disturbing. We should document how it was before we disturb it. Your signal is not very strong. I'm not reading you. I'm not getting you very well either, O'Shea replied patiently. Perhaps the ruins are interfering with the signal. Say again? Never mind. He leaned back, both hands in the door's recess, and felt the door slide reluctantly open about 30 centimeters. He repositioned his hands on the edge of the door and leaned back again, producing another 30 centimeters of gap. He positioned again and heaved the door open enough for him to sidle through. He found himself in a dim corridor. The light from his helmet illuminated random bits of equipment encrusted in frost. He proceeded carefully down the corridor until he encountered another door. As before, he manually disengaged the locking mechanism and slid it open. This one opened more easily, and he found himself in a dark locker room. Some locker doors open, frosty EVA suits hanging in them. Like the corridor, the floor was littered with helmets, clothing, and personal effects like toiletries. He proceeded to another open door, which led to an apparently ransacked galley. Beyond the galley were dormitories where some of the beds were still made. Everywhere there were strewn personal belongings and valuable pieces of equipment, suggesting the occupants left in a hurry and took only what they could carry. "You've been monitoring static," O'Shea informed Lima once he was well away from the ruins. "Yes, your signal was very weak. Perhaps the ruins were interfering." "That's not what I'm talking about," O'Shea countered patiently. "I'm talking about the radio traffic you've been monitoring. It's just static. There is no radio traffic from the locals because there are no locals." It seemed that Lima needed a moment to digest this assertion. "What drew you to that conclusion?" she asked finally. "Reality," O'Shea answered grimly, "and realism." "I still don't understand." "Think about it," O'Shea said, staring around a large stone outcropping. He was retracing his path from that morning. "Mars is a resource-poor environment. There's not even air to breathe." "Yes, that is true." "And you said that communications from Earth tapered off and abruptly stopped 52 years after we launched." "That is also true." "Then it would seem logical to assume that transport traffic between Mars and Earth also ceased." "Yes, and all that happened 3,000 years ago." 3,140, yes. Then it is also logical that either the facilities here on Mars were abandoned at that time, or those remaining here were abandoned to their fates here. "Yes, that was my assumption, that the radio signals I detected were from human settlement." "But no human settlement could have persisted for 3 millennia after being abandoned by Earth. Human life could only be maintained by technology, and technology needs to be maintained. That AT unit I found was abandoned because it could no longer be repaired. Without resources from Earth, all the domes, power cells, and habitats would wear out. Any people left behind would cannibalize parts from worn-out machines, but eventually everything would break down. They would survive for a few decades, maybe, but not 3,000 years." "Unless they were prepared to be abandoned." "What do you mean?" "I mean that someone could have established a settlement intending it to be permanent, self-sufficient, using the resources here, perhaps with renewable resources brought from Earth." "Well, that's what I wanted to do," O'Shea concluded grimly. "But we both know how that turned out." "What makes you think you were the only one?" "What makes you think I wasn't?" "Realism and reality, as you said. I received a message while you were in the ruins." That ends Chapter 9 of Throwback Book 1, Ares Triumphant. As usual, I will remind you that all books on the Fedora Fiction list are available from Amazon.com/author/Tom Goss. I'm Tom Goss. Thanks so much for listening.